So I had this idea, I wanted to make a video to offer some tips to start trail running. And the perfect place to do that would be out on the trail, but it's been so rainy and so many days. The trail hasn't dried out. It's going to take many days and still more rain to forecast. I decided, let's just do it in the home studio. So let's roll the opening. Hi, I'm Ralph and welcome to Ageless Runner. It's no secret of mine that I love trail running. And that's how I got started running, was training to do a trail marathon. So I try to trail run when I can. As I get older, I probably do it less often, but I really enjoyed it. And I don't know if you're a trail runner, if you're not, I want to give you some tips today to get started because it's a lot of fun and it's great. It's great exercise and a great alternative to running on the road. But before we get into that, let's talk about the benefits of trail running. And I see three benefits, at least for me. The first benefit is just being out in nature. You know, they tell us that it's good for your soul, good for your spirit, good for your emotional health to be out and spending time in nature. I still remember this scene. I was trail running in the fall, it was the autumn, running around a lake, and as I was crossing the path, I could see the lake in the distance, and on the other side of the lake were all these trees ablaze in bright reds and bright oranges. It's still a vision that sticks to me this day, and it's just a wonderful feeling and wonderful experience. So getting out in nature is a good thing. The second thing that trail running does is it makes us stronger. It's kind of been bandied about that trail running takes anywhere from 30 to 50% more effort. It's just harder. You're going up and down hills, around trees, and stepping over rocks and roots. It just takes more time. And kind of in that same idea, you will use muscles trail running that you don't when you're road running, just for those reasons of going around and over things. The other thing kind of related to strength training is it's going to improve your balance. Just weaving around the trails just makes you work those balance muscles a little better. Now the third benefit is it will make you mentally tougher. If you're a road runner and all you do is run on the road, running in a different environment like a trail will expose your mind and your body to other conditions, and that'll increase your mental toughness. So those are the three benefits that I see, and there should be three benefits that you would see also if you want to start trail running. So if you're interested, let's get started. Now, trail running is a little bit about the gear because you're going to be out on your own in the forest, running on dirt or rocks or whatever. So your gear is going to be a little different than what you do, for example, on the road. One of the big things is trail running shoes. Trail running shoes are a little different. Well, they're a lot different than road running shoes. Primarily, the big thing is the tread. If you look at the tread of a trail running shoe, you will notice that it's much more aggressive. It's got deeper lugs. Depending on the brand or the manufacturer, it'll have different angles or different patterns. These are my Saucony Exodus, which is one of the shoes I wear for trail running. I wear these and also wear the Saucony Peregrine. Those are my two trail running shoes I use now. Now, trail running shoes also have some other features. One of the things is in the toe. Typically, the toes are reinforced. I call it a rock plate. I don't know if that's the right term, but usually there's more rubber up there to protect the toes should you stub your toe on a rock or a root. Usually the upper is usually somewhat abrasion resistant. Again, different manufacturers do different things. There could be other features, again, depending on the manufacturer and the model you use. One thing Saucony does, which I think is pretty neat, they have this elastic strap over the laces here, and you can tuck the end of your laces into that strap. But why is that a good thing? Well, if your laces are flopping around, they easily catch on vegetation, which might cause you to trip or become untied. Now, one thing you're probably thinking is, well, I don't know if I want to trail run. I'm not going to go out and buy an expensive pair of trail running shoes. And I agree with that. Don't do that until you try it. Use your road running shoes, but take a couple of precautions. One is make sure the trails are dry and they've been dried out, so you're not going to be running in mud. Don't go out and do long runs on the trail yet. Just do some short runs. By short, I mean 30 to 45 minutes. If it's a one-way trail, run out 15 or 20 minutes and run back. Do several of those short trail runs in your road shoes. See if you like trail running. If you do, then go out and make the investment into some good trail shoes. Now, next thing I strongly recommend are gloves. Now, if you're running into cool weather or wintertime, you have regular gloves on, but if it's summertime or springtime or fall where it's warm, you ought to get some fingerless gloves. And I've got two different kinds here I'm showing you. The one on my left, which is your right, are actually paddling gloves. Now, I know you're going to wonder, well, Ralph, where'd you get those? And I have no idea. I probably got them either at Dick's or REI. They're paddling gloves, and they have a reinforced palm. Now, maybe you're wondering, well, why would I want to wear fingerless gloves? Well, of course you want your fingers free, but the real reason for wearing gloves, if in the unfortunate event you trip and fall, what's the first thing you do? You put your hands out in front of you, and then when you land, you're going to cut your hands. Believe me, I've done it. I've had hand cuts, and that's why I started wearing fingerless gloves. And when the weather's warm, if it's cold, of course, you wear a full glove. Now, these happen to be a much thinner glove. They're actually just more sun protection. I think I got these at REI. I would advise, wearing a glove that if you were to fall on your hands, it would give you some protection from cutting. So strongly recommend wear some type of glove, fingerless glove or a full glove. So another thing to consider, if you run where the conditions are dusty, maybe run desert-like conditions or sandy conditions, you might want to get a gaiter above so you can put it up over your nose, your mouth. I don't use that because I typically run in the forest and dust is not an issue for me, but it's something to consider depending on your conditions. The other thing you want to have for the trail is something I assume you have for your road runs. If you do a long road run, you take along water and fuel with you. I assume you carry that in something, either a running vest or running pack. You want that for your trail run, because you want to carry that stuff when you go out on the trail. Now, I always wear my running vest even if I go on a short trail run because I want to have stuff with me. We'll talk a little bit later about being prepared and being safe out on the trail. So I always wear my running vest. So you want to have something that you can carry stuff in. Whatever you do today would be fine. There's nothing special you need for the trail. So to get started trail running, obviously you need to pick a trail, and you got to give a little forethought to that. You don't want to pick anything too difficult, especially if you're a beginning trail runner. And you might ask, well, how do I find an easier trail? Well, there's a couple ways you can do that. There are some apps out there like All Trails that can discuss different trails around your area, usually rated in degree of difficulty. The other thing to look at is like websites, like state park websites will rank their trails. Any trail that's popular that people hike is probably not going to be too hard to run. In other words, it's going to have had a lot of traffic, ought to be clear of a lot of debris, falling over trees and things like that. So if you're not sure, maybe go walk a trail first before you decide to run it. So pick your trail wisely. Again, don't start off running long runs, run short runs, 30 to 40 minutes in length, and get a little experience doing that. Now, when you do run, you want to do a couple things a little different. One is you may want to think about picking your feet up a little more because there's going to be things on the trail. Could be rocks. Where I run, there could be short little stubs of old sapling trees that are in the trail, just roots sticking up from the trees. You want to pick your feet up a little more when you run, and you may want to shorten your stride up a little bit, again, to help with balance and minimize the risk of tripping. The other thing you want to do a little different when you run the trail on the road is where your gaze is. Now, typically when you run on the road, you're kind of staring out off in the distance, kind of fixing out there. In trail running, you don't want to do that. You want to look kind of in front of you where you're running. You want to see where your foot's going. If you don't, if you're just staring off in the distance, that's where you run the risk of tripping and falling. So don't stare at your feet, but kind of look out just a few feet out ahead of you, see where your feet are going to land, make sure you're avoiding those little trail hazards that might be out there. The other thing you should think about when you trail run is just forget about pace. Don't worry about pace. You may have a certain pace you run on the road. Do not expect that on the trail. You'll be walking more on the trail just to avoid hazards. I find that when I trail run, depending on the trail, my energy level, I will add anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes to my mile pace, just being out on the trail. So just expect that. Now, if you're a run, walk, run advocate, you can still do that on the trail. In fact, you probably will do that because you will walk over certain hazards. If I come up to a point in the trail that's I think is risky to run, maybe a lot of rocks or roots, I'll walk that. So there's a lot of natural walking breaks when you're trail running. But if you'd like to learn a little more, I'll queue up a video at the end that I made on doing run, walk, run on the trail. So keep your gaze kind of just out in front of you. Take walk breaks and recognize your pace is going to be a little slower. So let's talk about what I think is one of the more important aspects of trail running, and that is safety. If you're like me, you're going to be out there running by yourself. I rarely run with anybody. Occasionally I run with my daughter. She's a trail runner also. But typically, based on our schedules and availability, we just don't run together very often. So I'm out on a trail by myself. I'm out going through the woods. And since I'm retired, I can run anytime. I may run on a Wednesday afternoon, and there's practically nobody out on the trail. So you need to be thinking about safety while you're out there and being able to help yourself and being prepared to take care of yourself. So one thing you want to do, of course, when you trail run is take a cell phone with you. That's your means of connecting and getting help if you need it. However, there will be places, at least where I run, there's no cell service. So the thing you want to do there is make sure you tell somebody where you're going, what trail you're running, and what time to expect you back. That way, if you're not back, they can call and tell people, get some help for you, tell them what trail you're on, they can go find you and search you and bring help to you. Now, once you become a more experienced trail runner and you decide you really like this, you can get some satellite things, like Garmin makes some satellite communicators you can get if you want that. But those are kind of expensive and they're not necessary. But a cell phone and letting somebody know where you're at and when you'll be back is the most important thing you can do. Now, the next safety items you can do is think about what do you bring with you. Remember in the beginning I said you want to carry a pack or a running vest so you can carry stuff with you. Obviously, you're going to carry gels and water for hydration and energy, but you want to carry a few extra things that I would recommend you take. So with respect to water and energy, take more than what you think you'll need. If you get stuck someplace, you want to have extra water and extra energy. Typically what I take is I just throw a couple of protein bars in my backpack. I don't eat those while I'm running, but I figure if I get stuck somewhere, trip and fall and hurt myself, I'll have these. These would be much more substantial for me than an energy gel. So bring extra energy, bring extra water. The other thing to bring is one of these thermal blankets, these little cheap aluminum foil thermal blankets. They're very light, they're very inexpensive. Throw one of those in your pack. Again, if you get stuck, even if it's in the summertime and you've been sweating and you're in the shade, you could start chilling, especially if you've been injured. Throw one of those in your pack. Again, they cost hardly anything and they're very lightweight. I also bring a bag with me, a little Ziploc bag. I put some things in. Think Band-Aids, maybe some antibiotic ointment or alcohol wipes I put in there. I also carry things like ibuprofen or Tylenol. I even have some sunscreen in here because I like to say sunscreen. So Band-Aids, antibiotic cream and things like that. Just a small bag of some things. If you just cut yourself and you're back to the car and you cut yourself and you want to bandage that up, you have something like that in there. Two other things I recommend is some kind of a rag. Why a rag? Well, a rag is good for wiping the sweat off your brow, or if you trip and fall, you can clean off mud. Or one time I cut my knee and I had a rag there. I could clean up my knee along with some wipes and things like that. So a rag is useful for many purposes. The thing to carry is an emergency whistle. Now my Osprey running vest has a built-in whistle, but if you don't, get yourself one of these emergency whistles of some sort. That way you'll have it if you need somebody to help find you. Now, if you're going to be running where you might risk getting into dusk or nighttime, bring a headlamp or a flashlight. Throw that in your backpack. I typically don't do that. I run in the mornings. However, when I did a trail marathon, I knew it'd be dark when I was running, so I actually had a headlamp. But that's only if you think you'd be caught out at dusk or dark. So most of these items I've talked about are fairly inexpensive. I'd recommend you carry those even as you start to trail run. These are items that are also good to carry even if you road run. It doesn't hurt to have some Band-Aids or some ibuprofen, something like that, even when you road run. But carry some of those minimums, carry an emergency whistle, carry a blanket, carry some extra fuel, and go out and just get started running. So one other aspect of safety has nothing to do with what we carry, but has to do with our age. The older we get, the more conservative we need to be. And by conservative, I mean erring on the side of walking something rather than running it. If I come up on a section that's got rocks and roots, I will walk it. I will not chance to fall, because the older we are, the more we risk injuring ourselves when we fall. Now, I don't have an age that's saying, hey, if you're over 40, you're over 50, certainly if you're over 60, but you need to decide that. But err on the side of caution. Walk things more than you run if you're unsure about it. Don't try to prove that you're a fast trail runner. Try to prove that you're a safe trail runner. The fact that you're an older runner and you're out there running a trail speaks volumes for what you're doing. So err on the side of caution, walk anything you think might be dangerous. So the weather's eventually going to prove here the trail is going to dry out, and I can't wait to get out there. I so much enjoy being out in the forest and the woods. I think you might enjoy that also. So if you're not a trail runner, give some serious thought. Follow some of these tips. As I said, you don't need to go out and buy trail running shoes to get started. Start with your road shoes. Do carry a few emergency items like a emergency whistle, an emergency blanket, extra protein bar, something like that, and just get out there and try it. Do those short runs, do those frequent short runs, and just give us an experience. Then add trail shoes later and whatever else you might like to carry with you. I really appreciate you watching this video. If you enjoyed it, scroll down and hit that like icon. And while you're at it, if you're new here, and I really appreciate you being here if you're new here, hit that subscribe icon. I'd love for you to have you stick around and watch some of my future videos. So thanks again for watching. Happy running.